In a galaxy full of powerful warriors, humans are too strong to compete in the grand tournament of supremacy. Instead, humans withdraw and offer themselves as the ultimate prize, a legendary warship called the United Nations Dreadnought Sovereign. The story follows Lieutenant Grant Nolan, a calm and brilliant human officer, and Captain Tavern, a humble but clever alien warrior who wins the tournament and inherits the ship. As Tavern learns to command this incredible weapon, he must face the threat of the cruel Scorn Empire, led by the fierce warlord Hacker. What seems like a gift is actually a test, one that will decide the fate of Tavern's people and possibly the whole galaxy. The story is tense, full of strategy, betrayal, and hope, as two very different species learn to trust each other under impossible pressure. Lieutenant Grant Nolan stood on the observation deck high above the grand arena of the Citadel. His polished boots rested on the smooth floor, but his mind was far from comfort. Around him, millions of beings from countless species cheered loudly, filling the vast space with raw energy and bloodlust. Yet Nolan remained calm, his dark blue uniform neat, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp and watchful. Below him, the combat floor was alive. The smart matter sand shifted and changed shape like a living thing, rising into hills or sinking into craters at the will of hidden machines. The fight nearing its end was a deadly dance between two warriors as different as night and day. Warlord Hacker was a mountain of muscle covered in crimson scales. His 7-foot frame held a giant plasma maul that left deep, sizzling scars on the arena floor with every swing. His rage was a force of nature, unstoppable, raw power focused on one goal, victory. Opposing him was Tavern, a quiet figure from the Kel species. Small and slender, he looked more like a scholar than a fighter. His shield emitter flickered weakly, struggling to hold against Hacker's furious blows. Tavern held a kinetic staff, simple but precise, a weapon for control rather than brute strength. The crowd had already written off Tavern. The announcers called it a valiant but doomed effort. The Great Scorn Empire, led by warriors like Hacker, was expected to claim the prize without question. But Nolan was not watching for power. He was watching for patterns, angles, timing, the flow of energy and thought beneath the surface of violence. For 15 minutes, Tavern had not tried to overpower Hacker. He had let the warlord chase him across the arena, steering him exactly where he wanted, toward one of the 12 glowing field regulators that controlled the smart matter beneath their feet. It was a known flaw in the arena's design. The regulators could overload and cause unpredictable bursts of energy. The tournament engineers had called it an environmental hazard. Nolan called it a trap. Hacker raised his maul high for a final crushing blow, certain of victory. But Tavern did not dodge left or right. Instead, he dropped flat, sliding beneath the fiery arc. The plasma maul passed close enough to singe the fur on his back, but it was too late for Hacker to stop his own momentum. The warlord crashed into the glowing field regulator. A sharp crack echoed, followed by a flash of brilliant blue light. The regulator released its stored power into Hacker's body, burning through his failing shield. The crowd fell silent as smoke rose from the fallen champion. Then, a single pair of hands began to clap. Slowly the applause grew, spreading until the entire stadium roared with stunned, disbelieving cheers. The underdog had won. Nolan allowed himself a small, rare smile. This was no accident. It was a perfect calculation, a 37-step equation executed flawlessly. The mission he carried in his mind had moved into its preferred phase. Later, in the Hall of Concord, a vast chamber that felt like a morgue for giants, the formal ceremony took place. Alien diplomats dressed in elaborate robes droned on about honor and peace, ignoring the brutal truth that this resolution was entertainment built on violence. Tavern stood overwhelmed but proud as Nolan stepped forward to present the prize, the command cirlet. A small black ring of metal, simple and elegant, it was the key to the United Nations Dreadnought Sovereign, a legendary warship retired from active duty but still feared across the stars. As a symbol of alliance and partnership, Nolan said clearly, "I present to you this command cirlet. May she serve you well." Tavern took the surlet carefully. It was not just a prize, it was a heavy responsibility, a link to power he barely understood. Nolan led the Kell warriors through the docking bay into the Sovereign itself. The ship was cold, sterile, and massive. The air smelled of clean stone and cold rain, a sharp contrast to Tavern's home world's recycled, harsh atmosphere. The ship's gravity was steady and silent, a promise of technological mastery. Joro, Tavern's engineer, marveled at the seamless walls and self-repairing nanites hidden in the ship's structure. Rhea, Tavern's security chief, kept her hand near her weapon, scanning every shadow. On the bridge, the captain's chair sat alone in a dark, spherical room. The only light came from the stars outside and the soft glow of the control platform beneath it. Nolan explained the ship's design, centralized command, governed by an AI named Solon, with full access to all systems. Tavern hesitated but finally sat in the chair. The ship seemed to come alive, lights blooming softly and a holographic star map rising before him. Then the calm voice of Solon filled the room. "Welcome, Captain Tavern. Your use of the arena's cascade was an elegant solution. I approve." Tavern flinched. The AI had watched his fight, quoted human military philosophy, and judged him worthy. Nolan stood quietly, watching. This ship was not just a prize. It was a test, a partnership. The quiet, terrifying power of humanity was now in Tavern's hands. As the crew prepared for a training jump, Tavern felt the weight of his new role. The years of human dominance, their withdrawal from battle, the prize that was really a challenge, all of it was just beginning. Suddenly, a message from the Kell High Council interrupted their shakedown. The Scorn Empire was moving near their border, testing them with aggressive patrols and sensor sweeps. The council was divided and scared. Tavern realized the Sovereign was not just a trophy. It was a weapon of last hope. His security chief's warning echoed in his mind, "This is a trap." But Tavern knew they had no choice. The game had changed, and the fate of his people rested on learning the secrets of this ancient and powerful ship. The first jump was smooth, the Sovereign folding space with a grace Tavern had never imagined. Yet every moment was a lesson in trust, fear, and the cold logic of war. As they moved deeper into space, a dark shape appeared, an enemy ship shadowing their path. The Scorn were watching, waiting, ready to strike. The silence of the human observer on the bridge was the loudest warning of all. Nolan watched Tavern closely, the final test just beginning. The shadow of the Scorn warship grew larger on the Sovereign's view screen. Captain Tavern's heart beat fast, but his voice was steady as he turned toward Lieutenant Nolan. "Is this expected?" Nolan's eyes were calm, unreadable. "The Scorn are sore losers. They will watch and wait, looking for weakness." Suddenly, the Scorn ship fired a scanning beam across the Sovereign's shields. The bridge lights flashed red for a moment, warning of an invasive scan. "They're testing us," Nolan said quietly. "Trying to get a reaction." At that moment, a small object shot away from the Scorn ship. The AI announced, "Probe launch detected. Trajectory near collision course. It will pass within 5 kilometers of our forward port bow." Rhea growled, her hand tightening on her sidearm. "Children throwing rocks." Tavern frowned, thinking hard. "Our flight plan was classified. How did they know where to find us?" Nolan's face was serious. "Flight plans have vulnerabilities. Someone leaked our path. The Scorn are probing for advantage. But under Concordat neutrality treaties, they cannot attack openly. For now, they only try to scare us." The crew held their breath as the small probe sped past, harmless but threatening. The tension on the bridge was a silent storm. Then, everything changed. At the exit point of their next jump, the peaceful darkness of space was shattered by a dozen enemy ships. The Scorn fleet had been waiting. They formed a crescent, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. "Multiple contacts," shouted Fun, the pilot. Communications are jammed. The main screen flickered. The face of Warlord Hacker appeared, filled with rage and hatred. "So the little rat arrives," he snarled. "The tournament was a farce. You stole what is rightfully ours. I declare this victory null and void." Tavern's fur bristled. Hacker's voice echoed across the bridge, filling the silence with threat. Nolan stood quietly, arms crossed, his face a mask of calm. The tension in the room rose to a fever pitch. Rhea shouted, "Captain, give the order. A blind jump is better than death." The crew's panic spilled over. They were scientists, engineers, not warriors. The Sovereign's power was overwhelming, but so was their fear. Tavern sat frozen, his mind a storm. The ship shook under heavy fire. Shields held but weakened. Rhea's voice cracked, desperate. "Please, Captain. Jump now." But Tavern's training, his hard-won victory in the tournament, told him this was not the time for fear. The cold part of his mind took control. He remembered the fight in the arena, the trap, the overcommit charge, the perfect strike. He saw Hacker not as a monster but as a force that could be outsmarted. "Delay that order, Chief Rhea," Tavern said, his voice sharp and calm. The room fell silent, every eye on him. A blind jump is a prayer, not a strategy. He turned toward the holographic map and addressed the ship's AI. "Salon, analyze the enemy fleet's weaknesses. Focus on their shield cycles, engine vulnerabilities, communication delays." Data streamed into view, green and amber lights flowing like rivers. Then Tavern looked at Nolan. "Lieutenant, this vessel has limits placed by the Concordat. But this is no handover. This is war. What question should I ask?" For a moment, Nolan's professional mask cracked. A small smile tugged at his lips, the look of a man who had bet everything and was winning. He tapped his ear and sent a single word through a secure channel, "Candidate." Turning back, Nolan's voice was sharp, confident. "Ask Salon to display the Sovereign's discretionary power options." "Directive Hydra." Tavern commanded. The ship's systems shifted, revealing secret tactical subsystems hidden from public view. Nolan added coolly, "Recommend deploying the Echo drone swarm. They will mimic our energy signature and confuse enemy targeting." Tavern nodded. "Deploy the swarm." Outside, 100 glowing drones fanned out, drawing fire from the Scorn frigates. The Sovereign vanished in a blink, reappearing behind Hacker's flagship. Golden energy beams lanced out, striking the enemy's power conduits. Engines died instantly. The flagship drifted helplessly. Fun at the helm no longer trembled. His voice was steady as he plotted the next jump. "Course laid in, Captain. On your mark." Nolan murmured, "Treachery is the currency of the desperate. Arrogance leads to ruin." Tavern smiled grimly, seizing the moment. He ordered a gravimetric projector to create a temporary gravity well between two Scorn frigates. The ships were pulled violently together, colliding with crushing force. Explosions bloomed in space as metal tore. The Scorn fleet fell into chaos. Their command ship was crippled. Their guns fired wildly at the drone swarm. The Sovereign floated untouched, shield strong, hull pristine. "Finish them," shouted Fun, adrenaline high. "Destroy the flagship," Rhea urged. "Send a message." Tavern held up a hand. Instead of attacking, he opened a channel to the enemy flagship. His voice rang out, calm and commanding. "Warlord Hacker, you said the strong take and the weak cry. Today, you are the weak. Withdraw now or be erased. Your choice." The enemy fleet hesitated. One by one, their ships turned away, engines flaring as they limped back into the dark. The bridge erupted in triumphant silence, relief washing over the crew. Tavern slumped in his chair, exhausted but victorious. He had faced down a fleet, a legend, and won. Nolan stepped forward, offering a slow nod of respect. No salute. No ceremony. Just respect, his gesture said. Then Salon's voice filled the room, warm and approving. The supreme art of war is to subdue without fighting. Your restraint is true strength. A new symbol appeared on the display, the olive branches and globe of the United Nations of Earth. Salon explained the entire journey. The ambush had been a test. Tavern's reaction was the final measure. Your application for alliance is approved. Tavern stared at the glowing symbol, understanding dawning. Humans had not given a prize. They had set a challenge, a trial by fire. They sought a partner with the mind to lead, the nerve to fight, and the mercy to spare. He had not only won a ship. He had saved his people. And the fate of the galaxy rested in his hands. The aftermath of the battle settled like a quiet storm over the Sovereign. Captain Tavern sat back in the command chair, his fur damp with sweat, eyes fixed on the glowing symbol of Earth's United Nations that pulsed softly on the control panel. The weight of victory pressed down on him, heavier than any armor. Around him, his crew moved with renewed purpose. Joro's fingers danced across engineering consoles, tracing the delicate lines of power flow through the ship's mysterious systems. Rhea's eyes scanned every sensor feed, alert for any lingering threats. Even Fun, the young pilot, who had been trembling with fear earlier, now held himself with steady confidence. Lieutenant Grant Nolan stood quietly at the edge of the bridge, watching. His expression was unreadable, but in his eyes burned a quiet fire, a mix of pride and calculation. "Captain," Nolan said, breaking the silence, "the Scorn fleet is retreating, but this is only the beginning. They will regroup and return with greater force." Tavern nodded slowly. "Then we must be ready." Nolan's gaze sharpened. "The Sovereign's systems are vast, but not fully understood by your crew. I will continue to guide you. Your success depends on mastering this partnership, not just between us, but between you and the ship." Tavern's voice was firm. "I am ready to learn." The ship's AI, Solon, chimed softly. "Captain Tavern, I recommend a full systems diagnostic and training regimen to optimize your command." Tavern looked at the starfield beyond the forward view screen. "Begin." The next hours passed in a blur of learning. Nolan's teaching was precise, sometimes harsh, but always patient. The Sovereign was more than a ship, it was a living weapon, a ghost in the machine. Its AI was not just a tool but a partner, anticipating needs, analyzing threats, and adapting in real time. Tavern felt the weight of responsibility grow. This ship was the hope of his people, the last shield against extinction. But with such power came danger. Every action could draw attention, enemies eager to test the strength of the new alliance. Late into the cycle, a communication alert sounded. Nolan's face appeared on a holographic display, flickering with static. "Captain," Nolan said urgently, "we've received a transmission from Earth High Command. They want to initiate formal alliance talks and begin joint operations." Tavern's ears twitched with a mix of relief and caution. "Tell them we are ready." The message carried a promise, and a warning. Humanity's reach was vast, but their patience was not infinite. Tavern understood that this was a new beginning, but also a new battlefield. Days passed as the Sovereign moved through the SAR system, its crew growing in confidence. Tavern's command style evolved. He learned to trust the AI's suggestions, to think not only as a warrior but as a strategist. His instincts sharpened, honed by the silent lessons of Nolan and the machine. One evening, Tavern stood on the observation deck, gazing at the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. Rhea joined him, her expression softer than usual. "You have changed," she said quietly. "The burden suits you." Tavern smiled faintly. "I am not alone. This ship, Nolan, even you, we are partners now." Rhea nodded. "Partnership is strength." Suddenly, an alert shattered the calm. "Captain, incoming sensor reading, Joro's voice crackled over the calm, unknown vessel approaching fast. Signature matches no known species. Tavern's heart raced. The universe was vast, but danger was never far. Prepare for contact, he ordered, standing tall. The bridge filled with tension as the mysterious ship drew near. Its hull shimmered with strange energy, unlike anything they had seen. Solon's voice was calm but wary. Unknown vessel detected. Recommend defensive readiness. Nolan stepped forward. This is a moment to show not only power, but diplomacy. We must be ready to fight, but also to listen. The unknown ship hailed them, its voice distorted but clear. We are the Veilborn, it said. We come in peace, but the galaxy shifts beneath our feet. Choose your allies wisely. Tavern exchanged a look with Nolan and his crew. The game had grown more complicated. Allies could become enemies, and enemies could hold the key to survival. The Veilborn's warning echoed in his mind, the fate of the galaxy was still uncertain, and the choices they made now would shape the future for generations. As the Sovereign's crew prepared to engage with the new visitor, Tavern felt the true weight of his command. This was no longer a test. This was war, diplomacy, and survival, all bound together in a deadly dance. And at the center of it stood the prize that was never just a prize, the ship, the alliance, and the hope of a better future. The mysterious Veilborn ship hung in the void before the Sovereign like a shimmering ghost. Its hull shifted color and shape subtly, a living canvas of light and shadow. Tavern's crew watched in silent awe and growing unease. The unknown technology was unlike anything they had faced. Captain, Nolan said quietly, this is a first contact situation. The Veilborn are cautious, but their warning is serious. We must proceed carefully. Tavern nodded, feeling the heavy weight of diplomacy pressing on him. Open a secure channel. I will speak to their commander. The view screen flickered, and a figure appeared, a tall being with translucent skin that shimmered like starlight, eyes deep pools of shifting color. The Veilborn commander's voice was calm but firm. Captain Tavern, we come from the outer edges of known space. The Scorn are but one of many threats growing in the shadows. Your alliance with Earth and the United Nations marks a turning point. Choose wisely. Tavern listened, his heart pounding. The galaxy was larger, more dangerous than he had imagined. This meeting was both opportunity and test. Thank you for your warning, Tavern replied steadily. We seek allies, not enemies. Our peoples face common threats. Together, we are stronger. The Veilborn commander regarded him carefully. Strength alone will not save you. Wisdom, trust, and sacrifice are the true keys. Before more could be said, alarms blared. The Sovereign shuddered as hidden enemy ships decloaked around them, dark vessels slipping like shadows from the nebula. Ambush! Rhea shouted, drawing her weapon. The crew sprang into action. Nolan's calm voice cut through the chaos. Prepare for battle. Deploy Echo drones. Activate Hydra directive. The Sovereign systems roared to life, shields flaring as plasma bolts streaked past. The hidden ships fired with deadly precision, but the Sovereign was a predator awakened. Tavern sat steady in the captain's chair, commanding with cold focus. Target enemy frigates. Maintain shield integrity. Keep the flagship safe. The battle was fierce. The Sovereign's drones confused enemy targeting, while its energy beam struck vulnerable points in the attackers' hulls. The Veilborn ships fought with strange but effective tactics, forcing Tavern to adapt quickly. Amidst the firefight, Tavern's mind raced. This was no random attack. Someone had set a trap, exploiting the fragile alliances and tensions of the galaxy. Captain, Nolan said, the Scorn may be behind this. They fear our growing strength and seek to isolate us. Tavern clenched his fists. Then we will show them the cost of underestimating us. With Nolan's guidance, Tavern ordered a daring maneuver. The Sovereign performed a micro-jump, vanishing from the battle only to reappear behind the enemy fleet. Fire! Tavern commanded. The energy lances hit the enemy command ship, disabling its engines and communication arrays. Chaos erupted among the attackers. The battle turned swiftly. The enemy vessels faltered, and the Sovereign pressed the advantage, forcing a retreat. As the last enemy ships fled, the Veilborn commander's voice came through the comms again. "Your victory is hard-won, Captain. But beware, the galaxy's shadows grow darker." The Sovereign's bridge fell into a tense silence. Tavern looked around at his crew, tired, battle-worn, but victorious. Nolan stepped forward. "This is not the end. The tests will continue. But you have proven worthy." Tavern met Nolan's gaze. "We will face whatever comes. Together." The alliance was fragile, the galaxy dangerous. But within the heart of the Sovereign burned a new hope, a chance to unite, to fight back, and to survive. Tavern knew the path ahead was uncertain and full of peril. But he was no longer alone. He was a captain, a leader, a symbol of resistance. And the prize he had won was more than a ship. It was a promise. The Sovereign glided silently through the cold depths of space, its crew still buzzing from the recent battle. Captain Tavern stood at the center of the bridge, the glowing starfield stretching endlessly before him. The weight of command settled on his shoulders like the vast darkness outside, heavy, but steady. Nolan approached, his eyes sharp but a hint of something warmer beneath the usual cool mask. "Captain, Earth High Command has transmitted new orders. The Alliance expects joint patrols and increased cooperation. The Scorn Empire will not relent." Tavern nodded slowly. "We are ready." Days later, the Sovereign led a squadron through contested space. Tavern's crew had grown in skill and confidence. The lessons from Nolan and Solon were shaping them into a true fighting force. Still, the threat loomed. The Scorn had retreated but were regrouping, gathering strength and rage. Their warlord, Hacker, had been humiliated, but he was not defeated. Then came the warning from the Veilborn, a distant system under siege by a Scorn task force. An opportunity and a test. Tavern stood before his crew. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for the galaxy's future." The battle was fierce and desperate. The Sovereign moved like a ghost, striking with precision and power. Echo drones swarmed, gravity wells twisted space, and Solon's guidance was flawless. Yet, the cost was high. Joro was injured, Rhea took a blow to her armor, and the crew's exhaustion was plain on every face. In the thick of the fight, Tavern made a choice. He ordered a risky maneuver to protect a civilian convoy. It meant exposing the Sovereign to heavy fire, but he would not sacrifice the innocent. The attack battered the ship, shields flickering, hull integrity strained. Nolan's voice was urgent. "Captain, this is dangerous. The tactical advantage is slipping." Tavern's reply was calm but firm. "Sometimes, strength is not measured by destruction, but by mercy." The crew rallied, inspired by their captain's resolve. With coordinated strikes and clever tactics, they pushed back the Scorn, forcing a retreat once more. As the dust settled, Tavern allowed himself a rare moment of hope. The alliance was fragile, the enemies many, but the future was theirs to shape. Lieutenant Nolan approached, offering a nod. "You have passed every test, Captain. The galaxy has found a leader worthy of its fate." Tavern looked out at the stars, feeling the hum of the Sovereign beneath him, the prize that was never just a prize. It was a crucible, a challenge, and now, a home. The fate of many rested on this ship, on its captain, and on a fragile partnership forged through fire. The game had changed. And Tavern was ready to play.